Joining me today are two of the co-founders of MotoSurf, where innovation meets the open water. What's all that about? We're going to find out. I'm joined here by Stephen Garner and Dana Lundquist, two of the founders of MotoSurf, like I said. And then down there on the end, that beefy dude that you can't miss. This is Dave Gray of the Gray Agency, and we're going to be talking a little bit about how he made their website look so amazing. So, guys, I want to step back a little bit and find out first, how did you two connect in developing MotoSurf?
Well, let's go back a few years. Motorized surfing started in earnest in Europe. It was invented there. And me being a good Texas boy and needed some competition in my life at that point, jumped upon and showed up unannounced and wanted to jump into the mix. And while I was there racing, I met Stephen Garner, who jumped upon from Canada to go race. And so he was the first racer from Canada, I being the first racer from the United States, who had the calling to do this. And we were starting to compete against each other on the track. And one thing led to another. And now we're sitting here.
Yeah, so that goes back to like early 2014. I want to say probably January, February 2014. We had met, I think it was in Mexico.
Probably Mexico. Yeah, one of the races there.
One of the races there. And yeah, same thing. We learned about the sport, and then we just felt like we had to be a part of it. So yeah, like he was saying, motorized surfing founded. The motorized surfing that we know today was really pushed into its place by a team out of the Czech Republic that made gas-powered boards. And moving forward in time, we all know gas is just kind of slowly going away because of the noise pollution, because of, you know, the inherent problems with having gas vehicles on the water. And we actively worked with them to try to pursue creating an electric board with them. We were both long-term members of the Racing Association with them. And at some point they just said, you know, they said, we don't think the adrenaline's there. We don't think the performance is there. And we don't think we can make a viable product out of an electric surfboard. And they gave us their blessing, and they said, hey, if you want to try to make it, you go and make it. And so, yeah,
it's that inevitable question, if not us, then who? Yeah. And if not now, then when? And so Steve and I found ourselves at that moment in our life and in this sport at its infancy. And we said, no, the electric side of this sport has so much to offer and tremendous benefits. And we've been experiencing those rapidly. So
for a novice, now I did go surfing for the first time in Costa Rica a couple of years ago. It was not motorized.
Yeah.
And, that would have been really, a little bit more than this little junkie could handle. But for those of us who just think of surfing, there's the surfboard, you catch a wave. How did this progress into motorized?
Traditional surfing is much more difficult than motorized surfing.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, with traditional surfing, you have to remember that the apex of balance on the board and where you position yourself on the board determine whether or not you miss a wave or catch the wave. Where this, you kind of start in the back of the board, you get going, you control your own speed, you control how you get up, you control when you get up. So it's a lot less difficult, as well as the buoyancy numbers. Like when you have a very thin piece of foam for a traditional surfboard, it's very tippy. Where our board, it has quite a bit more buoyancy, so you can have a lot more control on it. So it's my wife calls it cheater boards. But in all honesty, we don't normally surf them in large waves. Like normally when we're surfing them, we're flat lakes, rivers, places where you can't surf. Like that's the big thing about this is it's for when you can't surf their traditional style board.
It's quite simple to learn, and I say that it's if you can paddleboard, you can ride a skateboard, a bicycle.
Yeah.
I've trained people that showed up where I was riding one time and did 10 out of 10 people. We got them up riding. They became moto surfers. Now, obviously, they're not experts racing at that point, but they got to share that experience and the thrill and see what it was about. So it's really for the masses is what we're trying to help share and bring the sport to.
Yeah, it's better to look at it more similar to snowboarding, because unlike wakeboarding where you're pulling and leaning back, in our sport, you're more actually leaning forward as you would in snowboarding where you're going down the hill. And so you have that forward momentum and that forward lean. So it feels very, very, very similar to snowboarding is the best comparison, I would say, snowboarding on water.
Is there a weight limit?
Says the big beefy dude at the end of the table.
Only for you, Dave.
There is a limit if your name is Dave.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, really. Is there a weight limit?
Yeah, there are some limitations. As you increase the weight on the vessel, you are obviously, because it's an electric vessel, or even if it was gas vessel, your efficiencies go down.
Mm-hmm.
So as you increase weight, there inherently you have a little bit less ride time. And then there's the Coast Guard regulation. So even though the board can support much more weight than the Coast Guard regulation, we have to have a positive float buoyancy number to offset the weight of the rider. So you might see on a lot of these motorized surfboards that the weight says 200 pounds, 220 pounds. That doesn't mean you can't be 240, 260 and still use it. It just means that when that was registered through the Coast Guard, that was the amount of float buoyancy to have a positive float buoyancy number to pass Coast Guard approval. So that's kind of a little bit of a misconception. You have to remember that as you increase that weight, you're creating more drag in the water, and drag in water is much more than drag in air. So you do have some efficiency losses by having more weight. That being said, we can still get Dave up on there.
Yeah, we can still, Dave, you can still get up on there. Yeah. Okay, so it really, where I'm like, wow, the tagline, innovation meets the open water. So you said then that it can go to the lake.
Yes.
So now the surfboard has come to the lake.
Exactly. People ask me when they find out I'm in this business, the natural question is, are you from Florida or California?
Yeah.
And I said, no, I'm from Texas. If I had waves like California, I probably wouldn't need to put a motor in a surfboard.
Right.
So yeah, we're really hoping to spread the word, to share this new sport to lake rats. It's so fun, exciting. It's surfing on demand.
Well, and the thing is, you got to remember that me and Dana are both fathers, and we've both lived that lifestyle where we've had to buy a vehicle, buy a trailer, buy a boat, pay for the insurance, pay for the fuel, do the maintenance, and then not even get out on the water. Like, that's your life, is you're servicing equipment so that your kids can have fun and your friends can have fun, and you don't get to spend any time on the water yourself. And at some point, that's all fun and good, but you want to get on the water yourself. And so you can have a smart car and just stick it in the passenger seat and go to the lake. Or if you have a condo, you can just wheel it out to the water. You don't even need a car, and just wheel it out. And
it's pure surfing freedom.
Yeah.
Wow. So who is your client? Who can get on the motosurf?
Everybody. I don't know anyone that can't. I mean, we have enough.
They can walk. They can motosurf.
Even if you can't walk, we're working as hard as we can to innovate so that anyone who, we have a lot of people who unfortunately have had hardships in life and don't have the ability to even walk, and we're actively pursuing different things within our company.
Think of giving them that experience of the adrenaline rush of being able to control the throttle and go belly board around. Or
if you can move one hand, you're pretty much good to go for our products that are coming out in the future.
That is amazing.
So it's one of Steve and mine's mission is to help share that experience.
Wonderful. That just warms my heart.
Yeah,
definitely.
But I mean, we all have a fundamental point of where we came from to develop this product. And then another point we should make is that I once had the opportunity to start our initial company, which we actually did make overseas. And then as soon as I had the product ready to launch, I knew how enthusiastic Dana was about this industry. And so he was my first call. I said, Dana, I'm going to do distribution globally. I want you to be the head of global distribution. I want you to be the president of the US distribution, because I knew that he was so passionate about this sport, and I knew that I could trust him in this industry to hold our integrity to that level. So, but initially I started off as making a rescue board. And then it wasn't until we started making a recreational board that, Dana came on board, and then we said, like, hey, how can we make this as accessible as possible for the most people possible?
Well, and so I understand that you have 4 major priorities or 4 pillars.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And so the first one that I'm looking at here, build the recreation side of the motorized surfing market.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like I said, the sport originated in racing overseas. And so it's kind of a elite niche group of people who are started out and they're competing in that arena. And we just saw it was almost too exclusive. And so Steve and I are not wired that way. We are very inclusive. And so we wanted to develop a product that's easy to use. Number one, it's easy to use. The racing side of the sport is really interesting, and a lot of it is gas powered, but there's a lot of maintenance that goes on in that environment to maintain that performance. And so that's where Steve and I said, no, this needs to be electric. It has to be plug and play, where people can take it out of their car and throw it in the water. It's 5'7" long and weighs maybe 70 pounds. I mean, pretty much anybody can handle that product, and throw it in the water, and you put the starter key in and you go.
Plug and play. So how does it charge?
It has a
Or how
battery.
does it, okay.
Yeah, so it has a battery that you just open the lid and take out the battery, drop it on the charger. When you're done, you just put it back in the board.
This is amazing.
And then you have multiple batteries as well. So when you go to the lake, you can have 2 or 3 batteries. You can ride till your legs can't ride you anymore. So for most people, it's not more than 2 batteries. When they say it's electric, what about the ride time? Being beginners, 1 battery is a lot. But 2 batteries, even me being a professional racer and rider, 2 batteries is about what I need. And then I need a break, recharge them, and then go ride them again in the afternoon.
Yeah, if you're pushing yourself on this device, it really is quite the cardio workout and strength training workout. Like when we raced professionally, I think our longest race was maybe 10 laps. So
10,
you're talking
12
about
laps, yeah.
You're talking about 15 minutes. 15 minutes, and you are just destroyed at the end of it. Like if you're getting on one of our products and you're going 15, 20 minutes and you're not destroyed, it's just because you're just not pushing it or yourself hard enough. But that's not saying you have to.
This could be a major calorie burn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Especially with the adrenaline.
One of the things, Lisa, that they told me, I'm fairly new to this, and one of the things that I really, really admire about this is that it is electric. And when I got the honor of going to one of these races, and a lot of the gas powered boards, they weren't working, or water got in there or something like that. And what Dana told me one time is that that's the first thing I asked. Well, gas, I can go this, and he goes, well, as far as ride times, when you're not working on it and it's not in the shop, you're going to get more ride time out of this because it's electric.
Yeah, but we should point out that the founders of that company were Formula One engineers. So they were under the impression that when they developed their product right from the very beginning, that for every 10 minutes of riding, you were going to do 10 or 15 minutes of service. That it wasn't a question, because they built it to that level where it was a very high revving motor, very high compression rate, and it's an ICE engine, like an internal combustion engine. So there was always an understanding from them that you were going to be, a gearhead or a petrol head to be using their product. And they made a very, very good product for what their intended market was. But the problem was that they cared so much about the racing side that they just really left their main customer base in the dust. And the first time I decided that I needed to go into the electric side was I was in Malibu, and I got arrested for using my board in the ocean there, because it was so loud that I had the Coast Guard, I had the local police, I had wildlife conservation, like everyone stopped me, and they're like, hey, you can absolutely not be using a 2-stroke engine that's gas here on the beach.
You're scaring the fish away.
Yeah. Like they're like, this is a wildlife preserve, you can't be doing it. And they're like, yeah, at that point, I started looking into the laws, and it looked like more and more people were going away from 2-stroke and making it illegal to use a 2-stroke engine in the water just because of the mixed fuel, right? So you have the oil in your gas. And so we're like, okay, we have to do something to change this. And that's when we approached the founding company in the very beginning and said, hey, you should do an electric side. Unfortunately, they just weren't interested at that time.
And from another personal experience of mine from riding the board, gas boards and electric boards, think of going out riding on a lake, and it's 8, 9 in the morning, and it's nice and quiet. People are sitting there drinking coffee on their balconies, and you get on your 2-stroke board, and you're like, you hear the mosquito running around, and they haven't seen this sport yet, typically, and like, oh, that's cool. And then after about a minute or two, you just see them disengage, like, okay, please shoe fly. Yeah. When I'm riding the electric board out there, people never disengage. They're just constantly, eyes on you and waving and happy. Mm-hmm. So that's where also we knew that, okay, yeah, this delivers value.
Yeah, and when you're like, 15, 20 feet offshore, you can't even hear the board.
Yeah, you can't
hear the waves crashing or the normal the normal ambient noises.
Yeah,
you can't hear it.
that they're enjoying as they're sipping their coffee on their patios, and you're not disturbing.
Exactly.
You're offering some good
entertainment
imagery.
value because they're waiting for you to fall down. And we know it, and so
it's coming in 10, 9, 8. Yeah, here he goes.
And you're getting all that without the noise pollution, right? So yeah.
So moving on to our next pillar, develop the MotoSurf board into a better search and rescue tool to save lives.
Absolutely.
Correct.
A lot of people don't know this about me, but when I was 16, I lost my cousin. He drowned in Lake Winnipeg. I'm from Winnipeg, Canada. And it's always been very important to me, the safety aspect of this and the rescue side of this. So we've been working really, really hard to try to make this something that you can be very quick to respond. When you have something like an undertow or, you have a big wave situation, it's how fast you can respond is the big factor. And so, normally you'll want to have a jet ski or something, but they'll be beached. It takes time to take that and try to unbeach it, get it in the water, or you'll have people swimming out. It still takes time. Where this, we made it so there's integrated wheels and a tuber on the outside, so you can just pull it straight into the water, jump on it, go, and you're there immediately. You get up to speed very, very quickly on it. And there's other people who've been tried to do remote controlled flotation devices to rescue people. But the problem is line of sight. You have these large, hard plastic devices that you're controlling from the shore. When they're in the water, they have a very little cross section above the water, normally just their head. And so as soon as you get that device in line with them, you lose sight of them. So it's very hard to get to them very quickly and not run over them. So with our device, you are with the board. And so you get out there very, very quick. You have a very good scope of sight, and you can pull them onto the board and get them back as quickly as possible.
This is going to be huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
That even just that aspect, because seconds matter.
Exactly. That's what the rescue people tell us.
Yeah.
I have a personal experience doing my R&D testing right up here on Lake Louisville. Was out riding one day, and I ride there a lot for the past 8-9 years. And so I'm kind of familiar with the environment. And across the cove where I was riding, I saw a lot of commotion going on. And sometimes it's picnics and parties, but this seemed a little bit different. And so I said, wait a minute, I better go check. I ran across the cove, and somebody was missing in the water. And the people on shore were panicking. And so I got my board, and I started checking all the shore for like 90% of the area. And so by the time the scuba divers got there and the rescue team from the fire department, they were trying to see where to look. And I said, well, I've eliminated this area. But then the rescue team, the dive team finally got there and resolved the situation. But at least I was able to, from my experience, help them narrow where to look.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's by being able to throw that board in the water and immediately being on there, was priceless from a timing standpoint. So,
well, I got to tell you, this is so much more than I was expecting to hear about. Because it's like, adrenaline junkies and competition, hang 10, all that. And so this is absolutely amazing. The next on your top 4 are deliver a better adrenaline-fueled mousetrap to the already adrenaline-fueled junkies like these guys here that are out there.
There had to be a little self-serving angle to this.
So my biggest thing is obviously, like I've mentioned, rescue. But Dana has always wanted to make this, get it to the masses, get as many people experiencing this as humanly possible. The problem with that is once they get on it and they learn how to do it, you have to make sure that you can make something that can keep up with the skill level of the athlete or individual using it. So Dana pushed me very, very hard to make sure that we didn't just make the best board in the industry. We made sure that we made the best board that could possibly be made. So most efficient, fastest, strongest, lightest. So
yes. Steve is a genius engineer, problem solver. I've never come across anybody like him. And after working this many years together, so sometimes, working with somebody who's deals with perfection in their life and lines has its moments, but we collaborate and work together well. I'm pretty much the crash test dummy. And so he builds stuff and says, go try to break it to make it better. And we really, truly believe Steven has designed the best motorized surfboard humanly possible at this moment.
Yeah,
we truly do.
There's obviously limitations within battery technology. We've tried to work with like the new 4680 cells from Tesla and stuff for, you know, different pack sizes and stuff like that. And we try to make it so that in the future, if there's other possible cells that come out, we can make sure that we're always backwards compatible. Yeah, we've tried very, very, very hard to make sure that there's very little limiting us from, we made sure not to spare any expense on using whatever technology was available to us to get the best product out. Yeah.
I can definitely see that, and I see just the passion from both of you that you've put into this. And on our last point here of the 4, this is a great one. This is so good. Bringing jobs back to the USA. Speak a little bit more about that.
Well, it was really important to us to deliver the highest quality, highest engineered product possible for ourselves, because we're trying to serve our need and passion for this sport, but also to share with other people. So as Steve had mentioned, we were producing our products overseas for the past several years, and we just hit a ceiling where we couldn't advance the quality of the engineering and the production quality to meet our own personal needs. And so it's another one of those fork in the roads of, you know, what do we do? Do we cap out here, or do we go to the next level, double down, and build a factory in the United States, which is what we did. We have spent the last couple of years building a factory right down the street from here and producing our first boards coming out of it. So
exciting.
And the thing is that a lot of people are hesitant or afraid of bringing manufacturing back to America. But if you look at the numbers, as long as you commit to the growth, then it's actually a cost benefit. Because with us, we're obviously doing something that has batteries. It's fairly large in size. So if you have a vessel that has to be Coast Guard approved anyways, and you're making something that's 6 feet long inside the box and 2.5 feet wide inside the box, you can imagine that you can't ship very many of them without that container cost starting to build up. So if you factor in the container cost for actually shipping the product to America, even if you're getting it made cheaper there, once you start factoring the shipping and you factor in, you have to have a facility still in the United States to hold it. You have to have a team there still to sell it. You have to have warranty and stuff still available in the same country. You've already built the team in the country who's servicing the product. So now you just have extra shipping costs for no apparent reason. Plus you have your duties. So you can actually spend a little bit more on building the quality up in the product in America for what you're reducing in the shipping costs. So that's what we did is obviously there's some things that unfortunately just cannot be made in America right now. It's especially for someone else, like we're a very small company. So there's not a lot of vendors who want to work with us knowing like our minimum order quantities, right? So our MOQs. Yeah. So that's where we had some difficulties working with manufacturers in America. Was they're like, hey, how many parts do you want? And we're like, we just need 1,000 for this year. And they're like, 1,000. We don't do anything less than 100,000. That's kind of the hard spot for like, when you're doing some components. So, but as you grow, you build that into your growth projections where you bring that in-house and you start doing it yourself, so you don't have to pay a third-party vendor as you grow, or you get to those points where you can use those people. So we tried very hard, almost 3 years of trying to do it 100% in America, and unfortunately, we haven't been able to hit that target. But we have a plan to eventually have it 100% made here.
That is fantastic. Yeah. So you're significantly made in the USA.
Yes, yeah, 100%. Yeah. We're trying as hard and as diligently as we can to make as much as possible.
And as far as we know, the only JetBoard manufacturer being made in America. So, at least we're trying, and at least we're making a majority portion of it here. So, and trying to drive it to 100.
Yeah, we proudly carry the slogan within our team of America's JetBoard. Like that's,
wonderful.
That's what we're...
Wonderful, wonderful. And so now we've got a web developer junkie, the big beefy dude on the other end. Absolutely beautiful work. Dave is from the Gray Agency, and the work that you've done on that site is absolutely impressive, to say the least.
Well, they knew what they wanted, all right? And they said, hey, we want this, and then we want the bells and the whistles, but we also want it to be very user-friendly and informative. And these are the key things that they wanted. Rev share program, easy navigation, the way you can pick your board, pick different options that you want on it. And it's just like, when you go to a website to buy a shirt, you can click on, what does it look like in red? Well, it'll be red. So you can do what kind of, you can customize your board. And so they had strict instructions of what they wanted. So going back and forth, we came up with a really, really good product.
Yeah, it's a really, really slick site. So very, very well done. And I think that your personalities all really mesh together. It's birds of a feather flock together. And I feel like that's kind of how Dave understood your needs, and very good match there.
Spot on there.
We should lean into that a little bit. You mentioned the rev sharing. We came up with this as a team that we're going to be probably one of the first companies that allows anyone who wants to be an affiliate to actually get full profit margin as if they were a dealer.
Wow.
So there's almost no companies out there that I'm aware of who are doing pretty much like a 4-digit, commission for an affiliate off of promoting our product. So we thought, since we're going to be made in America, we're going to service in America, we're most likely going to do drop shipping for the vast majority of our dealers anyways, because we allow people to sign up to be a dealer without actually carrying inventory, because it's made in America. So what's the point?
It's right here.
It's right here. So we said, okay, well, if we're doing this service for our dealers who are fairly small dealers, and allowing them to no longer have to carry inventory, why not make it so that our affiliates who are promoting the product and creating those sales, why would we limit their ability to make profit off of our product? So we said, okay, well, if they're going to sell our product and they're going to generate that sale, we're going to give them the exact same commission base as a company who generates that same sale without holding inventory.
So that's part of bringing jobs to America. You're giving people the opportunity. There's probably many adrenaline junkies out there right now. Maybe they're not able to surf anymore, or they're living a different life right now, or maybe they still are very active. But just to be able to be a part of something like this, pretty cool to then be able to make some money from it.
Yeah, and the thing is that normally the barrier to entry for someone getting into like the watercraft sales side of the world, like you can imagine if you had an actual dealership and you were trying to sell boats or yachts or anything else, the barrier to entry is quite high. Mm-hmm. So the amount of money you'd have to invest into trying to buy some boats, inventory them, like do them on consignment, however you're going to do that, compared to us, where it's just like, be passionate about the sport, promote the sport, generate that sale, and you get paid. Like there's no out-of-pocket cost. Do what you love in life, and it'll come.
Absolutely. So what's next for MotoSurf? When are we going to be able to get our hands on this? What's going on in the pipeline there?
We are assembling our first board right now, coming out of the factory. So that's why this timing for us to be sitting here is pretty spectacular. So the first board is in production. Our hands are on it. And so you will start seeing it as we progress through the season this year. More and more boards will be hitting the waters, and you'll be seeing more content being delivered on social media around this product and sport. So you're literally at the infancy of it, at the cutting edge and at the infancy of the sport for America.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you're like, oh, they need to know this, or anything?
We care a lot about removing this idea of planned obsolescence. So we should probably just make a point of touching on this as well, that if you've ever bought a boat before, you got a 5-year window where you can have that boat and have good service and parts available before you're like hunting for parts and you're waiting to try to find them. And it seems like a lot of people have gone this way where they're not caring about the customer as much as they should. And we got a little bit fed up with it. So we said, okay, we're going to do whatever we can to make this product as user-friendly as humanly possible. That doesn't just mean that it's easy to use in the sense that you put your key in and you go. It's also, what happens if I do have a problem with this? How do I get warranty done on it? How do I get replacement done on it? What's the servicing look like? So we decided to make it so all the major components of the product can actually be taken apart with no tools. So if you need to take out the propulsion system or the control handle or the foot pads, you don't require any tools. So, we took a play out of, I guess it would be FCS's playbook, they have lock-in fins for surfboards, no tools required. So we're like, okay, let's do something like this where we don't have to have tools on the beach. Let's remove tools off the beach. So we made it so you can pretty much take any, like the wheel assembly, the propulsion system, anything like that. You can actually remove all that without tools. And then we said, okay, how can we go even further than that? So we said, okay, let's make it so all the internal components that can actually come apart only use one screw. So throughout the whole engineering of the entire product, we made it so that every single component, if it actually requires a screwdriver, will only require the same screw. There's only one screw
Exactly.
for the whole board, for the whole product.
That is so refreshing.
Insane engineering. Like I said, we tried to build the best board possible, not relative to competition. This is just what is the best board that Steve in his brain can invent and develop and deliver to the public. So.
Yeah.
Well, again, I'm blown away by how much more to this there is than I was even expecting.
Yeah.
So much more thought put into every level, the design and the engineering of it, but then how you're all inclusive. Before this, I was like, well, this ain't for me.
Right.
No, this is for me. I could do this.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I just love the saving lives aspect, bringing jobs back to the USA. Very impressive. Kudos to you.
Wow.
I cannot wait to see how all of this progresses. And we need to get you back on for the next steps and and talk a little bit more and learn about more of the experiences that I want to hear about, the people, maybe the lives that were saved, the people that that had disabilities, that maybe, I've got a nephew with MS. He can still walk-ish, but my gosh, wouldn't that be wonderful to get him out on the open water?
Absolutely.
And we would be happy to do it. We'd love to do it. So,
Yeah. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. I can't wait to talk again and see where this goes. And we'll see you moto surfing on the open water. And you're going to want to stay updated on Steve and Dana's Moto Surf adventure. So sign up today at motosurf.com and be sure to follow them on Instagram at motosurf.